If you're feeling triggered by watching any of my videos, please know you have all the permission in the universe just to turn it off and not watch anymore. Thank you. In this video, we're going to talk about understanding grooming and what is grooming. A lot of people talk about grooming. You hear, oh, grooming this, grooming that, and sometimes people nod and smile and they're like, yeah, grooming, right, grooming. Grooming is very complicated. It's very, very psychological. It's hard to break down, and sometimes it's hard to understand, especially if it hasn't happened to you. So I'm going to try to break it down into some bite-sized pieces, and I'm going to try to give you some good, clear examples of what grooming would be like or what it would feel like. So grooming takes place over a long period of time. Often it will take period over months. It can take period over years. I mentioned in one of my earlier segments that, if a predator's perpetrating age is age 11, but they're a Sunday school teacher, they could start grooming at age 7. So 4 years earlier than when they actually plan to abuse would not be too early to start grooming. Grooming, it starts with a phase called love bombing, which is just giving lots of time and attention and special praise to a child that they mean to perpetrate against. They also, one thing that is really, really important to note is this will be done in non-sexual ways. So people might have an idea that they're grooming them to become a sexual partner. They're not. They're grooming them to form a bond with the person. So for example, especially with little kids, right? And this will be done often in the open, in front of mom and dad, in front of the other students, in front of the grandparents. They tell them funny jokes. They tell them knock-knock jokes. They tell them jokes about ducks. It's just little simple things. They might pass out sticks of gum. Well, it's fine because they'll give out sticks of gum to 3 kids. Well, one kid, they might have a little special relationship started with, and then they give out 2 other pieces of gum because they're just keeping in character of that they're a kind person, and this is what this person does all the time. They always hand out sticks of gum, or they always give out pencils with erasers on them. They are grooming this child to have a positive bond with them. They want the child to seek them out. They want the child to look for the praise and attention. They want to please their teacher. They want to have the child running to them, see how good I did, see how special I am, see I want my teacher to praise me and tell me I'm good. They want my teacher to do special things and oh, I got a sticker this time, or my sticker says, you are very special. My own personal grooming experience. So my wolf was my dance teacher, and at first it was just like a normal experience. I respected him like a dance teacher, like my other dance teachers. At Christmas time, he gave me a tiny heart, a tiny felt teddy bear. It had a heart in the middle, and it said, you are very special. And the minute he handed that to me, there was something about it. He touched my fingertips, and he handed me this little cute teddy bear, and it made my heart race. And the moment he gave that to me, I started thinking about him like he was a boy, not just my dance teacher. It's those light touches, you are very special in a heart. Something about that, it changed how I felt about my dance teacher. He wasn't just a dance teacher where I was learning my steps and wanting to do well at dance. Suddenly, I started wanting to please him. I wanted to look nice when I went to dance class. I cared about if my hair was good. I cared about, was I wearing the same leotards as the older girls were wearing? Because I was in the senior dance class because I was a good enough dancer, but I was younger than those girls. It changed. I started turning myself inside out to make sure he noticed me and that I was pleasing him. So grooming doesn't happen often in sexual ways to begin with. It starts with those simple, small boundary pushes. They are often non-sexual. They are often done right out in the open. So one day we're all going down, to class. I'm there with all the other girls. He grabbed the back of my waist, and he said, "Oh, your waist is so tiny." My heart glowed inside. My teacher noticed me. He complimented me. My waist was so tiny. It mattered to me. I'll remember that till the day I die. The way he touched me, it was a small boundary push. It wasn't overtly sexual, but he touched me in a personal way. So he was making these small boundary pushes, pushing my hair back. Oh, after a sweaty class, your hair's out of your bun and everything else. Just pushing my hair back behind my ears. Light little touches, moving me into place. This was done in the open. This was done with the curtains up on the windows, the parents in the lobby, other students in class. These were not, he told me jokes. He told me knock-knock jokes or funny jokes. They weren't sexual jokes. They weren't jokes that made me uncomfortable. They were silly jokes that had me laughing. So all of these early stages of grooming are non-sexual, but they get the child wanting that person's attention. It's super important to understand grooming starts with love bombing. It starts with them noticing and singling out in some way that child or that vulnerable person. Grooming can happen with a vulnerable adult. Sometimes you hear about a senior who's just lonely and a neighbor who starts paying attention to them, and all of a sudden the senior citizen is writing checks and buying their neighbor a grill or something like that. Well, maybe the neighbor's kind of taking advantage of that senior citizen, and they're like grooming the senior citizen, and the senior citizen is buying them things. Grooming can happen anytime there is a power differential of some way, and love bombing is taking place. It doesn't have to be sexual. I'm talking about right now is the type of grooming that happens in organizations where a predator is eventually going to perpetrate against a child or a vulnerable adult. But you need to understand that grooming will start with small boundary pushes, love bombing, which is lots of time and attention, and will start in non-sexual, non-threatening ways, often done in the open. The reason it's done in the open and why this is important is because the predator has total deniability. I give everybody sticks of gum. Oh, that little felt teddy bear, I didn't think anything of it. Amber's one of my students. I just gave it to her as a little Christmas present. It didn't matter. It wasn't anything. I didn't mean anything when I pushed her hair back. Nobody even noticed him pushing the hair back behind my ears. These are light little boundary pushes. But when you have not stopped a small boundary push, when things go down the road, the tables have turned, and we're going to talk about this early phase is called the idealized phase, the love bombing phase. Well, the tables are going to turn. We're going to get to the devaluing phase, and then they're going to start making pushes in private that the child may want to say no to. But when you haven't said no to some of these pushes, it's hard to say no to ones you don't like. And eventually the abuse will start. We're going to talk about at every stage, this could be stopped by an adult, not by the child, but by an adult that's watching and knows what they're looking for. Because if you have now got some information that there's a child that you have an eye on that's pretty vulnerable and you can tell, and now you're noticing a teacher that's overly friendly with this vulnerable child, how come my teacher always used me for demonstrations? I was a good dancer. I wasn't the best dancer. Why did my wolf always single me out? Well, Amber can demonstrate this move. Well, Amber can show this. Okay, I was a good dancer. I wasn't the best dancer. But he was singling me out and giving me special attention a lot. Well, you know what? An informed adult might have put two and two together and said, maybe that wolf shouldn't be teaching my solo lessons downstairs where there's no windows, because that's when he had the opportunity to perpetrate against me. Maybe somebody could have pulled my mom aside, and by the way, my mom just dropped me off and picked me up from lessons because she had to work all the time because there was no dad at home. So she wasn't sitting in the waiting room with the other mothers. But another mother might have noticed and said, I don't think I would let this wolf take my daughter downstairs where there's no windows for one-on-one lessons. Somebody could have intervened. That's where I say there's opportunities at each stage. So at the idealized stage, at the love bombing stage, if somebody had noticed, they might have just said, how about he teaches it upstairs where there's windows, just so there's no opportunity there. So that's the one thing I really want to get across. Grooming starts small, little boundary pushes, often non-sexual, and often done out in the open. There's reasons why we need to do this love bombing and idealized phase. There's a lot going on in this phase. First of all, we got to find the child's hook. We need to gain trust with the child and with the child's parents, because they need them to leave their kid with them. So you got to have the trust of the parents. If you go on the internet, you're going to see that there's 3 phases of narcissistic abuse. They're going to say it's the idealized phase, which is the love bombing phase. Then there's the devalue phase, and then there's the discard phase. I'm going to tease out one extra phase called the hook. So this idealized phase, which is the love bombing phase, establishes the person's hook. It's really, really important to understand this. To understand this, we really have to understand the cycle of narcissistic abuse. We're going to start talking about how these guys play games, and then the cycle of narcissistic abuse and the ways we can prevent sexual abuse from happening in our organizations by understanding the full cycle, what to look for in each cycle, and how a trusted adult can intervene and stop it. This person is always playing games. They know when they start the grooming and the small light touches and the little sticks of gum, they know they're playing a game and where this is going to end, which is going to be in sex, oral sex, picture taking, whatever their thing is. But the child thinks whatever is happening is real. The child thinks they're really falling in love, or that they're really special, and that they're really being singled out. And it can take a long, long time for the person to really believe that that person that they thought they were in love with and said that loved them was really playing a game to hurt them. So at this point in my presentation, my live presentation, I do a little game to help people understand that the predator is always playing games, and they know where this game is going to end. But the child or the victim can't see that there's a game going on. So I use this simple example. So this is just a coloring book. So I do this and I say, I pick out somebody in the crowd and I say, okay, hi, are you gonna help me do some magic? And I'll say, okay, so I want you to wave your hand over my regular coloring book. It's just a regular coloring book. Everybody can see that, right? And wave your hand and say abracadabra and tap the book. And they do this and they tap the book and then they go, wow, you colored all the pages. And people are like, how'd that happen? I'm like, okay, wave your hand over it again and put it back to normal so somebody else can play. So they do it and they tap the book. And then I go, oh, you took all the color off the pages. How did you do that? And then I say, you know what? Somebody else, I want this back to normal so somebody else can play. I'm gonna go play with somebody else right now, and I'll have another person wave their hand over and say abracadabra, and then I'll say, oh, okay, you put this back to normal again. Thanks, good job. And I do this with adults. This is just a trick, right? And we're adults here. This is a simple trick. It's a magic trick. I'll show you the trick. People always want to know the trick. So if you touch the top of this book, it's a regular coloring book. If you hold the middle, it colors all the pages. And if you hold the bottom, it's blank. So this is a simple trick. Adults know there's a trick to it. It's a magic trick, Kids never get this. I do this all the time in my Sunday school classes. I do this at my kids' Halloween parties when they were little. Kids think they did magic. They never understand that there's a trick. You could do it again and again and again, and they will believe, I really colored those pages. How did I do that? Wow. I tapped it and I did magic. That's amazing. And that's what I try to explain to people. When you've been a victim of grooming and then sexual abuse, that guy knew where this was going to end. From the minute he handed you a stick of gum or a little felt teddy bear with a heart in it, He knew where it was going to end. He might not have known if it was going to take 3 months or a year. He knew where it was going to end. And you never had any idea where it was going to end. You thought you were really falling in love, and you were falling in love. You thought you were really special with the note passing and with all the special things he was saying and doing and telling you. And then when the tables turned, you kept believing the lies and the game he kept playing to keep you into more months or years of abuse. These guys play games. They're good at it. They're really good at it. They play this game so well that even the people being hurt don't go for help. They believe it's their fault. They make the child complicit in part of the early stages of the abuse. So my wolf led me along a path of passing notes, of him telling me I was so special, I was so sweet, that he was falling in love with me. He made it a big romance, a big fairy tale, to the point that by the time he kissed me for the first time, I wanted to be kissed. It was very chaste, it was very romantic. Yes, it was downstairs in that room where we were alone together and there was no windows. But I wanted to be kissed. He kissed me like that for over a month. But then he started pushing harder for more things. Did I want him to throw me on a bed 4 months after that and rape me, even though I said no? No, I didn't want that. But I did like the kissing, and I wanted the kissing. So he made me complicit in the early stages of the boundary pushes. So by the time he actually threw me on a bed and raped me, I felt like I asked for it. I must have wanted all of this. And he really pretty much said, well, I know you said no, but your eyes said yes. Well, why didn't you stop me when we were kissing if you didn't know where this was going to end up? Well, we're going to be married someday, so it's going to be all right in God's eyes. Well, geez, where does that leave me? So now I've lost my virginity, I've been raped, and if I start saying no, now it's not going to be okay in God's eyes. So making this other power differential, not just him, but God. So I was stuck as a 12-year-old. I was really stuck. And he knew it. He was playing games. And he knew just how to keep me into several more months of abuse because he knew me well. He spent all that time grooming me to gain my trust, to find my hook, which for me was my belief in God, to make me complicit in the early stages of the abuse, because I wanted those kisses. I passed those secret notes. There's a lot going on in that early cycle of abuse, that narcissistic cycle of abuse. There's a lot going on there. And it's important to really understand that. If you can't understand the cycle, you're not going to be able to break in and help on behalf of a child. So let's talk a little bit about narcissists, because these guys pretty much are narcissists. Narcissists are, well, just in general, these predators, they're intelligent, they're charismatic, they're going to be long-term players. They spend a lot of time on their reputation so they can become above suspicion. They groom adults, like parents and coworkers, as much as they groom the kids. They hide in plain sight. Often have wives, girlfriends, families. And they will have narcissistic personality traits. I'm not saying they have narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is actually pretty rare. I know on the internet, everybody's talking about narcissist. You hear it everywhere. NPD. You think everybody on the planet has got narcissistic personality disorder. NPD is not actually common, but these guys do have narcissistic personality traits. And it's important to understand what that is. So I'm going to try to explain the difference between a narcissist, somebody with narcissistic personality traits, and a healthy person, because you need to understand that and how these people can hurt kids. Because it's kind of hard to hurt a kid. Healthy people can't hurt kids. It's hard for us to hurt kids. So we're going to talk about that next. Thanks for staying with me. I hope you stay on for the next video.